Hi, my name is Linda Cirulli-Burton, and welcome to this channel named Above the Battleground, ACIM. ACIM stands for A Course in Miracles, and I have been a student of this spiritual self-study path for more than 30 years. I created these videos in order that the lessons, the inspiration would go deeper within me and maybe be of some benefit to you. Well, today I want to talk about caves. And it seems as though I've always been enamored of caves. Early on in my formal studies, when I was introduced to the cavemen, the prehistoric man who in the winter months would go into the belly of a cave. And of course, they've been finding fascinating discoveries of incredible wall paintings as well as artifacts that might be part of ritual ceremonies in the belly of the cave. So I've always felt kind of cool about that. So in 1987, when I moved from New York to Florida, I started a public relations office for my brother Joe and his health clubs. And I went shopping for a picture to hang on the wall of my little office. And I found the one that I've asked Christian to show you. Now, I love it. I love the colors, I love the light, and I love what it says. It says, this is from John 8:12. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So I just loved it. So fast forward from 1987 to 2011. And in 2011, my husband and I were newbies on the cancer road. He had been recently diagnosed with some scary times that really never stopped, But I asked on the eve of my 60th birthday if my best friend, Pat O'Brien Sansone, a wonderful artist and a great art teacher, if she would create a painting for me of Jim and myself coming out of a cave and into the light. And this is what she created. And I will be forever grateful because these two pictures go with me wherever I go. So you can understand how fascinated I was when A Course in Miracles came into my life in the early 1990s, and it referenced Plato's cave. And actually, it's very, very direct in a couple spots. And then it seemed as though the whole thing was based on Plato's cave, the whole concept of the dream, the illusion, and so the shadows referenced throughout A Course in Miracles. So Plato, as most of you are probably aware, was one of the three truly great philosophers that have impacted really globally the sensibilities of man. And there were Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Now, one really doesn't quite know where Socrates ends and Plato picks up because Socrates left nothing. And Plato created several dialogues where Socrates is the speaker, so we really don't know everything about Plato, but we learn these wonderful things about Socrates. So in the allegory of the cave, Socrates is asking questions of Plato's older brother named Glaucon, and I apologize if I killed the pronunciation of that name. And basically what the allegory of the cave says, and I've read multiple interpretations, looked at drawings that people have made, and there's always disagreements, but I think the most important features I'm hoping that I'm sharing with you. In the allegory of the cave, there are prisoners who are chained with their legs and their heads in such a way that they can only see forward. They can only see the images that are being beamed on the cave walls. Now, also inside that cave, there is behind the prisoners a raised walkway. And behind the walkway, there's a parapet or a partition. And it's really interesting because this was the first time that I realized truly that there could be what we would call puppeteers behind the partition who are moving with characters made of stone and wood, and they look like they're walking across the path, right? Then behind the puppeteers would be the fire. So now we have to realize that the prisoners in the belly of that cave are only seeing everything that is literally made up. It's like a hallucination. It's a dream. It's illusory. And I can tell you, if Plato was writing in the era we're in now, he would have thought of this as being in the belly of a cave in a movie theater, with behind us is the camera, and then we are looking at what's beamed on the screen. So really, it's really the same. It's very, very interesting. And then you can jump from that into what I want to talk about now, which is that, let's just say one of the prisoners gets released. And I think what's really clear is that there's no particular reason why or how that prisoner gets released, but the first set of light that prisoner would see when he turned around would be the fire. So you can just imagine the impact on the eyes of the prisoner who is being released from the cave. But he hasn't even really found the true light. But he goes out of the mouth of the cave, and there's the sun. Now imagine the pain and the angst. And because I've had eye problems over the last several years, I really can understand what this could do to the eyes of anybody with a body. So the prisoner is now released. In the excitement of what the prisoner has been learning, he decides to go back into the cave, and he wants to share with the prisoners how there is a life so different outside that cave. However, Socrates is going to be forced to take poison. And Plato, I don't think for the rest of his life, ever recovered from what his beloved teacher was forced to do. And boy, I tell you, it's pretty easy to also imagine Jesus, the body of Jesus, in the dark world, who also had to sustain his form of crucifixion. So this really brings up a lot of interesting insights. First, let me just say that this journey, as presented by Plato's cave, is symbolic, because A Course in Miracles is based on the premise that you and I never left God the Father, but just think that we did. And when we went into these bodies and into the physical world, what happened is, because we are mind, all right, mind, there were two parts to this mind, this split mind. And so I would think that it's not a far cry to imagine that the prisoners who are looking at the wall upon which illusions, shadows are being beamed, have the power within them to choose against the dark and into the light, even while their bodies remain in the darkness. So I became very, very fascinated by this. And I want to credit the Q&A published by the Foundation for A Course in Miracles to leading me to the study that I did regarding this particular video. So let me just share one of the readings that it points out from A Course in Miracles. This is from chapter 12. You are at home in God, dreaming of exile, but perfectly capable of awakening to reality. So even though there is the symbolism of walking out of the darkness of a cave and into the light, the truth is that we carry within ourselves the mind of darkness, the mind of ego, and the mind of spirit, the mind of light. So now, on that journey, let me share with you another reading from A Course in Miracles. Learn that even the darkest nightmares that disturb the mind of God's sleeping son holds no power over him. He will learn the lesson of awaking. God watches over him and light surrounds him. Can God's son lose himself in dreams when God has placed within him the glad call to awaken and be glad? He cannot separate himself from what is in him. His sleep will not withstand the call to wake. So, within that split mind, the mind of darkness and the mind of light, within the mind of light is the call from God. And within that mind, there will be people or instruments of learning that are captivating us from within the light. And I believe that when I look at those prisoners, of which I have been one, for most of my life, that there is a way out of that cave. And when we find that which is reflecting the light of spirit, when we find it, as I did with A Course in Miracles, as you may with something else, but when we find it, my heavens, it becomes the raison d'être, the reason to be. What I'd like to leave you with is a short video, and we have the link that you can watch that takes Plato's allegory of the cave and does it in claymation. And I think you will be as entertained by it as my students were, to whom I showed this video every single semester for 10 years. So thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing more information with you in this linear time future. That's just an illusion. Thank you for being with me.